What's going on, everybody? It's Bowser Jr. here, and for today's video, it's going to be a little different. This isn't a random movie review, this isn't a skit. So, one of my current classes is a senior seminar, and it's all about preparing me for when I become a teacher in the future. That's currently my career goal. But one of the goals for this week's assignment, actually, is we are discussing banned books, be it in, high schools, colleges, just libraries in general, books that are being banned, why that is, and for this week's assignment, we were told to pick one of the banned books on a list of them that we were given by the American Library Associations, and just go over it, read it, discuss it. And so I checked out the list, and very curiously and interestingly, the Hunger Games trilogy, the Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay are all on this banned book list. And I just find that absolutely fascinating, and I had to choose it to be discussed today. Why all exactly I chose this one specifically, I'll get into later, as it is actually part of the assignment. But so the overview of this is going to be of this whole podcast here, basically. I will be going over the books when they were published, the storylines in them, giving you a brief overview of them. I'll be retelling the parts necessary that I believe I should state that will lead into the conversations we have later. Whether or not the story would have worked as effectively without these elements that got it banned or on the list attempting to be banned in the first place, would it have been as good if we didn't have these hot seat topics, and then a few other topics after that, which I will get into later on. So for now, let me just start off by saying that the Hunger Games trilogy, believe it or not, is one of the most influential series of all time, especially in modern day. Now let me explain, okay? So Suzanne Collins released the first book of the trilogy, The Hunger Games, on September 14th, 2008. If you are not aware, the story is set in a future dystopian world that has been ravaged and wrecked by war. By the end of the war arises the capital, the power city in the books, and the main source of government that everyone follows. After winning the war, the capital wanted to show off how powerful they were by separating all the survivors into 12 distinct districts. And every year, the districts are forced to send 2 participants, 1 male and 1 female, to battle in the annual Hunger Games. It is a battle royale free-for-all where only 1 out of the 24 kids will come out alive. They are put in a circle surrounding a cornucopia and can either rush in to try and grab equipment and weapons, or run into the surrounding area and survive on their own. The first book follows the 2 main characters, Katniss Everdeen and Peeta Mellark, who are the representatives of District 12 that year. The story follows their journey as they are flaunted around as pseudo-celebrities, trying to gain favor with the wealthy crowd to receive help during the games, and their struggle for survival. They both manage to come out alive as the winners after threatening to give the capital no victors by eating poisoned berries under the guise of being in love with each other. The second book, Catching Fire, was released on September 1st, 2009. The story once again follows Katniss and Peeta as they are dragged back into the Hunger Games. This year, it is the 75th annual Hunger Games, and due to a celebration they call the Quarter Quill, the game will have a special twist to it. The twist for this one is that only winners of past games will be chosen to compete. The Capitol actually rigged this because the head of it all, President Snow, believes what Katniss and Peeta did at the end of the first Hunger Games was actually out of rebellion and not love, as they had tried to state and lie to everybody. This belief is also backed up by the fact that the couple stirs trouble every time they are taken to a district. You see, the Capitol likes to flaunt the winners to every single district as a last middle finger after the games have been done before the next one the next year. And certain districts, especially one that housed a little girl named Rue that Katniss had befriended and laid to rest properly during the last Hunger Games, are throwing riots, are starting to fight back, and so Katniss and Peeta are now kind of being seen as a threat, especially Katniss specifically. So they are dragged back into the Hunger Games. And during the games, and just the lead up to the games, the pair of them are losing loved ones, they make new allies, they are fighting for survival in a constantly changing environment, and learn that they are mere pawns in a grander scheme. As it turns out, the pair, especially Katniss, had been turned into symbols of rebellion. Without their knowledge, a resistance group had planned to rescue the star-crossed lovers and allies from the arena so they could take the fight to freedom. However, while Katniss and the other resistance members are able to be rescued, Peeta is left behind as a presumed prisoner of the Capitol. The final book of the trilogy, Mockingjay, was released on August 24th, 2010. This story is an all-out war between the Resistance and the Capitol. It is full of espionage, showing the making of and use of propaganda, turning the idea of celebrities on their head, the damage that torture can cause, PTSD, trauma, and loss. It also has the moral and risk of repeating history, because after winning the rebellion, the heads of the rebellion decided to host their own Hunger Games, featuring the children of the Capitol to show them what it had been like. Katniss puts a stop to it by killing the leader, causing her to be excommunicated from the new civilization, and Peeta joins her, the two of them starting a family and living out the rest of their days together. 2 years after the last book was released, a movie adaptation of the entire series began production. The first movie was put in theaters March 23rd, 2012, the second was released November 20th, 2013, and the last book was actually split into 2 parts, being released November 24th, 2014, and November 20th, 2015, respectively. The books and films made millions of dollars, jump-started the career of Jennifer Lawrence, and helped give birth to 2 genres in different categories. The first genre was in regards to film and TV, because the success of the Hunger Games kicked off a massive push for adapting young adult novels. The 2 most notable series that were adopted are the Divergent series and the Maze Runner franchises. That being said, there also was a push to update many other young adult series, and they are still being adopted today, especially on Netflix, mostly being turned into series more than movies. But none of them have reached even close to the success that Hunger Games has gotten. Even though they're not reaching that success, good adaptations are still providing very good sources of income to companies, and that's why nowadays it's still being done. And even then, the fan bases look forward to it. They love seeing the stories and characters they've grown attached to brought onto the big screen. The other huge genre that Hunger Games spawned was the birth of the Battle Royale genre of video games. You see, after the first movie was released, a YouTube channel, Machinima, started building a map in Minecraft. The map was completed, and on April 17th, 2012, the first ever Minecraft Hunger Games was released. The event consisted of about 24 famous Minecraft YouTubers, and the rules were just based off of the book and film. Contestants were spawned in the middle of a cornucopia. They could run in or leave to try and get loot. The last one standing was the winner, and those that died were allowed to sponsor still alive players, and the goal was just be the last one alive. I actually delved deeper into this subject in a video I made 4 years ago titled The History of Battle Royale on the YouTube channel, and the reason I bring that up is because this first event launched and pushed the genre of Battle Royale into fruition, because the games in Minecraft kept being adapted and improved as time went forward, and now the genre was being pushed into brand new directions and improved upon in other video games. It's gotten to the point now where 3 of the biggest video games that exist right now, PUBG, Call of Duty Warzone, and Fortnite, all exist because of the Hunger Games books. They are 3 of the biggest juggernauts in gaming right now, and they would not exist if it was not for these books and these movies. Now, the books themselves are nothing too crazy. They are very well written, they're very engaging, but it's not exactly like they are the most deep books that exist out there. But their impact on modern society should earn them enough respect to still be discussed and talked about around schools and just in conversation. Instead, Suzanne Collins' Hunger Games Trilogy is one of the many books that has actually been banned or is currently in the process of being banned from schools during fights. Now, Hunger Games is not new to the controversies. One of the biggest one is the fact that it is accused of ripping off Battle Royale, a 1999 novel and 2000 movie from Japan, and the similarities are very obvious. A strict military government passing a law that will send children into a death match where only one will survive as a way of demonstrating their power to the people. Suzanne has denied these accusations, saying that it might have been in the back of her mind, but it was never intentional, so no one will fully know whether or not it was a ripoff. But this is just to say, there is actual controversy surrounding the past of Hunger Games, but that's not what garners it this reputation of possibly being banned. No. Instead, according to the American Library Association, the reason for the ban is due to insensitivity, offensive language, violence, anti-family, anti-ethic, and occult/satanic things in it. And in 2014, the novel was also banned for reasons of inserted religious perspective. Now, I'd like to tackle these one by one real quick. In terms of inserted religious perspective, there is nothing religious being pushed in these books. Maybe someone could try and make the argument that Katniss is the air quotes like savior, but she's really not. So I don't understand what the insert of religious perspective is when it comes to this franchise. Also, the occult slash satanic. I mean, the Capitol is very much portrayed as a bad ideology and construct, but nothing in the book franchise is occult or satanic itself. So again, not quite sure what it means by that. Maybe it means like some of the mutated creatures that are created in the world, but they are also, again, seen as bad things that should be fought against and not turned towards. Then we get to the argument of anti-ethic. One of the biggest events that happens in the entire franchise is just how wrong this is. People are being punished for something they didn't do. People are abusing their power in a capitalist society just to prove how much stronger they are over those they view beneath them. Katniss is excommunicated because she does the right thing of not letting history repeat itself, of continuing the Hunger Games to a brand new generation. This movie screams ethics from top to bottom, fighting corrupted governments, standing alongside your fellow man if you're able to. This book seems to state a lot of things that people like would enjoy, so I don't understand this reasoning either. When we get to insensitivity, Katniss can be blunt, as are other people in the book. Same with offensive language. Insensitivity and offensive language go hand in hand here. While there can be some elements in the story, for it to be a major conflict like this, I personally don't see it or understand it being to this extreme, especially since to combine the claim of violence to this as well. We still teach Shakespeare in high school. Some middle schools do as well. We still teach Shakespeare. If you compare Shakespeare to anything that is in the Hunger Games doesn't even come close to touching it when it comes to language, insensitivity, and violence. So the idea that somehow this trilogy, where the worst thing it does is condone capitalism, especially corrupt capitalism, I don't understand this. It seems like a very useless ban. And the one that is most confusing is anti-family. The idea that these books spur anti-family. The whole reason this franchise starts and that Katniss goes to the Hunger Games in the first place is that Katniss' sister, Primrose, she is the one chosen for the Hunger Games, but Katniss volunteers and sacrifices her own life so that her sister can stay safe. Yes, the father dies in an accident and the mother is depressed and an alcoholic, but she grows and becomes stronger for her family as time progresses, especially as Katniss has to try to fight to bring her back once going to the Hunger Games. This whole series is very pro-family. In fact, she literally goes to war, nearly dies for her family. The idea this is anti-family screams at someone who's never read the books and needed an excuse to try and claim. That's another reason why I wanted to talk about this book series. Would I make it a classroom study? Personally, I don't think so. I would probably focus more on something else like Frankenstein if I was going for more in-depth on a lot of different topics. But I wanted to discuss the Hunger Games trilogy because as a franchise, it has done so much to shape modern society. Not society itself, but culture. That it deserves respect and it should be talked about and allowed in schools, because we should look at the things that really do help shape a generation. Like, video games are not going to be the same since these films released. Film and TV are not the same since the movies released. And books as a whole have gotten a lot more focused on just pushing this kind of adventure franchise, as well as strengthening cores of rebellion, standing up to corrupted governments. All this has existed before, but it felt like this series brought it to a whole new kind of popularity. And to have it be banned or just not be allowed to talk about it, not be allowed to like have it in the library to read for the new generation, it just feels wrong. This franchise, even if people don't know it, is so important to modern day that it feels just strange to try and ban it and not have it be readily available. That's the main reason I wanted to talk about this, is because it's too important and has earned too much respect to just tried to not let people read it, especially for reasons that are very easy to argue against.